roof today, and it might have been a little warm up there.
All right, it's 7 o'clock. We'll call the meeting to order. Has the meeting been properly noticed?
Yes, it has.
Moving on to recognitions. Anybody from the board have anything? Anybody from the audience have anything? Jim?
I do not.
All right, opportunity for public input. Nobody signed up. Moving right along, information and discussion items. Facility improvement. Go ahead, Sergeant.
4A, we have our facility improvement update, which will be present at each meeting for quite some time. There are two items. One is for the board to discuss the different resolutions. So on August the 10th, the board has the opportunity to vote on the resolution language that will appear at the November election. Both items have been drawn up by Attorney Griggs, and there's just a subtle difference between the two. In option B, the language that is more towards the top refers to our Americans with Disabilities Act compliance, and then also school safety. Those were items that, as we have went through this process, that we've had our community say, you know, we'd like those addressed. And so looking at those options, the board gets to have a discussion on that. But when it comes time to August the 10th, we'll have whatever option that we're looking for. Like I said, my preference would be option B, but now is a good time for that discussion. And the other pieces are a July update that will be sent out to our families on the 15th, which is this Friday.
I think if you're looking for recommendations on the initial resolution, option B better captures what it is as a board that we're trying to present to the public, the idea of a referendum. So I would be in favor of option B.
I would second that.
I'd agree. I would agree with that.
Any strong feelings otherwise? And as I stated earlier, the July update, it talks about a calendar, which is really important at this time. Talks about where we're at with scope and budget, timeline, the upcoming date, August 10th, big date for everybody. It highlights the student input survey as well. Any other discussion with 4A? Okay. So 4B, Game Night Productions. With us tonight, we have Kurt Hanusa with Game Night Productions. In short, this is an emerging opportunity for our students, and I liken it to a student organization that really exposes our high school students primarily to careers in event production, and it also can be a way in which our district builds those community ties. So I am going to stop casting. Jordan is going to show a 2-minute video, and then we'll have Kurt follow up with some information. So Jordan.
The history of Game Night Productions really started several years ago. I grew up, I played football. My alma mater is right down the road in Baraboo. I remember the things that I enjoyed the most on Friday nights. That's the whole coming out, warming up. You've got the band in the background, playing the fight song, doing the cadences, and just the energy of a Friday night experience.
On a Friday Night Lights experience for many schools, there are those kids who will never be the D1 football players. There are the kids who will never be in the marching band. They'll never be on the cheer team. They really don't have a place in Friday Night Lights football.
Because I do want to talk to you about the connection between community, athletics, sports, and what we're all doing to help these kids who are in many ways marginalized and simply need a place to be and belong.
So it is all about the production and giving these students the biggest roles in that. Yes, the athletes are important in everything they do. I was one of them. That's very important. But all the ambiance around it is really what grabs and motivates that event and pushes it forward.
Object of this is to give kids a platform to do something that they want to do, but they were never asked and had the platform.
Game Night Productions will be a great hands-on experience, and I think that it will be a great way to obtain high school credit, and it will also look really good on college applications or resumes.
What you're going to hear about today, Game Night Productions, to give the kids an opportunity inside these schools that don't feel like they're part of the school community, a place. And then the last thing we do to bring everybody back out, kind of like what we're doing today, people come out to see famous people, right? So we bring them out, we do Packers on Tailgate, and we share with them that experience that we're doing as a community.
But that's what it's about. It's about bringing the community together, putting fans in the stands for one purpose, and that's to build people up and not to tear down.
So, should I behind the podium maybe?
Where you're comfortable.
Yeah, so I'm Kurt. I'm the founder of Game Night Productions. We are a new nonprofit that launched last year. We're working with a school district in, well, my hometown, Baraboo, to help, again, bring the students into, it says Friday Night Lights experience. Yes, football is definitely one of the productions we do, but we also offer the rest of the athletic portfolio as well. So we're talking soccer, volleyball in the fall. The coaches don't allow us to do cross country or tennis at the moment, but then we also can do wrestling, basketball, hockey if your district offers hockey, and then all the sports in the springtime as well. But the whole purpose of it, as I was kind of waiting for this meeting to start, I was walking your hall, and whoever put that nice board as you walk right into the school together did a phenomenal job. I'm not sure who did that, but excellent work, so nice work. And you know, a couple pieces I grabbed from that with where your district is currently going with what Game Night Productions offers. Yes, it is. Our program is about bringing students into the school community. A lot of times we run into schools and you have these different groups that don't always connect. So there's these students that, you're right, they might not be the athletes going on to college or whatever, but they can fill phenomenal roles in the production of an athletic event. They might want to DJ the event. They might want to help with the music for the athletes and like a third down music or transitional music, some of those things. So it helps build that school community bond. So from the students that traditionally don't interact with those groups of your school, it builds those school community bond. But then in turn, because it's event productions at a local level, it also reaches out beyond into your community as well, because a lot of why people don't go to your local athletic games anymore is, well, usually the excuses we hear are, well, I don't have a kid playing, or I don't have a band in the band, or anything like that. It's not a fun event. But we'll all go to a semi-professional, soccer game or baseball game or something like that. So we give these students, again, those roles to put on these types of productions for pregame activities, making the ambiance of the event fun, and just kind of give them all these opportunities inside of the athletic arena to benefit not only the event itself, but learn these valuable skills. And then reflecting back on what the piece you have, a lot of it has to do with, again, those connections and feeling like that sense of belonging. So the social emotional aspect of the student, how the program is developed intentionally is we break them down into segments of sound, video, and production, and you have this mentor-mentee relationship of students, kind of, because if anybody's ever been part of production, like if that video wouldn't have queued up on time, I'd have been running back to grab my tablet and, trying to fit myself within the 10 minutes, and really, it's a stressful environment. So we're putting students in these environments to work with each other and overcome these sorts of things, and it's really a fun experience for them. So that's step one, but step two is the other thing, it really bonds your community together. It's, what I always say, the last place we can go, regardless of political affiliations or whatever, that really just kind of when the rival school comes out, like who's Platteville's rival school? You know, when they come to town.
Depends.
Depends?
It depends on the sport. Let's go, Lancaster.
Lancaster. When Lancaster comes to town, doesn't matter who voted for who or anything like that. When Lancaster comes to town, everybody walking in that stadium is a Hillman, right? I mean, you're all bleeding the school colors. That's a beautiful thing. So it gives you the community a sense to come back out, enjoy a game, enjoy these students' additional, things that they're offering your community, and just a whole rallying point around your community and just making it fun is really what it's about. So, yeah. Any questions? I'm going to stick around myself. I know you have a full agenda. You've got a lot of things to push through, but I'm going to stick around myself for any conversations afterwards. But are there any that'd be appropriate now? Yeah.
I did have a question. I work at a radio station that has, we do all the broadcasts for the local sports.
Perfect.
Does this include, I mean, you talk about audio production, video, that sort of thing. What does that entail?
So a lot of times, like on the radio, we'd have to look. I don't know if you guys use NFHS for any of your stuff. If your radio is doing the live stream, teaming up, any of those sorts of things, there's an assessment phase. But usually what we do is we come alongside, because most of the time when you say radio, it's, well, we'll broadcast the football game, and maybe not the soccer game, and maybe not, a volleyball match or something like that. It allows the students to come alongside and do the live in-game announcing, but then also if the radio station allows, to have a mentor-mentee relationship with the student to maybe, do a quarter or something like that. It's really, it's a flexible model.
Okay.
So is that kind of?
Yeah, I'd like to talk to you after the meeting, though, if you do stick around. Thanks.
Training the student.
All right. I'll get right back. So a teacher advisor from the Platteville School District, that's always the best. And then we coach them and come alongside that teacher advisor. We don't have that person yet designated from your district, but we like to keep it, we kind of like to call, that local person that has the connection with the students inside your district is the advisor role.
So one of the questions is the curricular or dual credit options that could be available, because we have, Southwest has some career choices, so does Platteville with graphic design. I mean, we've got two higher ed institutions that we could ladder into a career pathway. So the curriculum piece would be really important. My second question is, do you go beyond athletics? What about Skills USA? What about the forensics? What about robotics? What about all the things?
So we currently just teach and train for athletics, but on the sound, video, and production side, but then a lot of times these students will be the first ones tapped for maybe a performance. You're doing a musical or something outside in the community where they need some sort of production or tech help with just as little as running a soundboard or anything like that. As far as Skills USA, I don't know if there's a path forward for that. That'd be wonderful. Is there? Yeah, I don't know. But if there is, I mean, that'd be my background with Skills USA would be more of the technology education side with the building. So.
As far as equipment goes, what do you require our students to use or have? Or
well, we use
district be ramping up with?
It's a great question. So we use what you have. And then basically how Game Night Productions works is we teach and train the students to go out into the community with a need, and all the money stays with your local chapter. So we don't operate. Game Night Productions doesn't operate as some organizations. I guess I don't want to disparage anybody because they all have their purposes why they do it. We don't take the money back to a centralized location and give it back to the district. So from an equipment standpoint, you might be limited on, like if we want to produce a soccer game right now, we'd have to rent probably sound equipment. We might try to tap into a local radio station who might have the equipment and try to form those types of partnerships to A, source the equipment on a temporary basis, and then B, put together a plan for the students, which is part of curriculum side, business plan, spreadsheets, all that, profit and loss. Did you invest money into giveaways to get more people there or whatever? And then they'd use the additional funds to, hey, we really need a sound system, or we really need a new camera, or whatever it might be.
So if we're recording video, are the students editing it as well?
That's the goal.
That's the
goal is to totally take all the productions and basically make it kind of like what you'd see at a local college.
And so if we have WeVideo, is that, or are you talking more like Premiere Pro or something a little bit better?
We would utilize the
Whatever we
systems
had.
we already have in place that they know. I'm always a fan of, I mean, we don't want to recreate the wheel. There's a lot of stuff we can do with what they currently have, even if it's technically not the industry standard for the pros. So, yeah.
What do you provide that couldn't be done internally?
So we provide the additional coaching to the advisors and really kind of that voice to the group. It's kind of like, FFA, right, on a national level. The national organization kind of gives that larger thrust, but locally, obviously, it's your own teachers, your own curriculum, things of that nature.
How many chapters exist?
You would be, I said we're a new startup, you would be the second. I know, guinea pigs. No, it's not that bad. This is not something new. Our partner, and it really where it came from, and I know we're running short, it was Leroy Butler. Leroy Butler is going to be inducted in the Pro Football Hall of Fame in Canton in a matter of days at this point. He's been going around all over the state of Wisconsin, giving anti-bullying messages into schools. And we struck up a friendship, and it's great, that's wonderful. But when I met him about 5 years ago, we really started to have that conversation of, look, it's great, we can talk about this and all those pieces, but what are we doing as far as like an actual leave behind mechanism to allow them to really start connecting as a school community, as opposed to just say, well, don't do this, just don't do that, right? Don't bully people on social media. So this kind of came out of that, because we see a lot of students inside of districts that just don't have those opportunities to come alongside the school community itself. Athletic events give us that opportunity, but then we train them in some of these outside roles, some of these kids who want to be live streamers and whatnot, some of these talents to really kind of mold that back together. Yeah.
What is the price of all the services that you mentioned?
We don't actually charge, we don't have like an administrative fee or anything like that. The only cost that we recommend, and this is always up to you, is we recommend on a coaching level or an advisor level, basically $3,333 per season or $10,000 a year for that advisor role. Now, we would go out as part of the program with that advisor and the students to try to raise the support to offset that salary for that position, in addition to any other funds that the students would need through marketing efforts. So
this grant application, that's part of the,
yep,
it talks about a full package value of almost
correct.
$500,000.
And that would be if, which we haven't gone through that. Basically what that amounts to is you can fill out the application. That would amount to a whole bunch of, it's a 5-year commitment from us to your school district to come alongside you and run the program. And that'd be us going out raising the funds to offset some of those costs. That gives you a list of ideas of what could be purchased for the grant, like in that one. It's really hard to run an event without good sound, so sound would be in that grant, as far as like offsetting costs. Lighting would be in that grant if you don't have good lighting. Video equipment would be in that grant, any additional, those types of things, and that staff salary, which is basically $50,000 over the course of that 5 years would be in that. And really what that is to, get everybody on board with that whole process of allowing us to come in and work alongside your advisor and raise those funds. So if you're asking if I have big corporate sponsors at the moment that are just doling out cash, no.
So there aren't grant funds available at this point?
We would go, I mean, if your school district is interested in that, part of it is our sweat equity and going out and generating the revenue locally for that. Does that make sense? But there's not like a large nest egg from a large parent organization that.
Leroy Butler has not opened up his checkbook, is what you're telling me.
But he has given, some street cred to it.
Any further questions? Thank you, Kurt.
Thank you. I'm gonna leave football there. Dimitri has the rest of them. Thanks. Yeah.
Item 4C is a review of the June summer school. The numbers are in front of us. All told, very successful with student participation. A couple of significant changes. This year, we offered for the young emerging learners, they would normally come to this building, but we hosted them at the Neil Wilkins Early Learning Center, and that was a great place for those students to start off summer school. They were oriented right away, ready to go. Another change that we've done over the past couple of years is we've incorporated our driver's education into summer school, and we've increased the amount of opportunities at the high school level as well. So all told, a lot of participation, and we're excited for the work that was accomplished and the dedication of the staff that came here for those first 3 weeks of summer to work with our students. Any questions on 4C? 4D is a brief preview. We have the teachers who will be working, but we can also have Mrs. Ryder quickly speak to the August Summer Learning Academy.
So the August Summer Learning Academy is really an opportunity for kids into first through going into current 8th grade class who need maybe a little extra jumpstart before the school year begins in reading, math, and written language. And so their invite students to attend. That was sent out before school was out through a Google form to specific parents. Right now we have 63 students in those grades registered or signed up to come. And we sent to a lot more parents than that, but that's how many. I think it gets to the end of the summer and parents are traveling before school starts and doing activities, but we're excited. The previous year we had 58 students attend, so we're up a couple students, but not a lot. But it's pretty consistent with what we had even prior to the shutdown in the 1920 summer. So, do you have questions? All right. Thank you.
Moving on to items in the consent agenda.
5A is the adoption of 5B, the minutes of our previous meeting on June the 8th. 5C, financial report and bills for the month of June 2022, in which our total receipts were $4,099,740.77. Disbursements, $3,457,554.60. And all of the line items are there to follow. Letter D is a group of first reading 700 policies. They have been forwarded from that committee without change. Letter E are academic standards and annual compliance event at the board level. These standards are, as a school, we have to state, here are our standards. Our standards are in alignment with the Department of Public Instruction. We just have to say that we are in alignment with those standards. F is a review of the Comprehensive Communications Plan. This was a first-year item last summer. It's been a year. Jordan has been able to go through and make some adjustments, and those are represented in that chart that is provided. Letter G, we have the approval of student handbooks at each building level, also registration handbook at the high school and activity code at the high school. That was something at the last board meeting. There were some items. Let's review this. Let's talk about this. Some of the highlights would be, I'll have to go from memory. So there was the cell phone, the cell phone policy, what can we do there? Let's get all 4 handbooks aligned in format, being able to search through them if you're a parent with different districts. Review the language. If the language was more punitive to start off with, let's go with a more positive view. We did some truancy work that happened in late May. So there's a lot of truancy. The change we're trying to incorporate with how we are handling truancy is to involve parents, but then also offer some support for those parents at each step. We have the fall 22-23 season co-curricular assignments. There are some of the year-long curricular assignments that are there. We have the resignation of a special education assistant at the high school, and then we also have the resignation of a co-curricular assistant boys soccer coach.
So moved. Second.
Second by Matt to approve the consent agenda as presented. Any questions or discussion on that?
I would like to add the discussion we had in operations for the high school.
Yep, and so for the rest of the board, if we get to page 23, there is a paragraph entitled Unexcused Absences. That paragraph will be struck.
That's in the high school student handbook.
In the high school student handbook, yes.
I also had some questions about the handbook. And I talked briefly before the meeting with Mr. Craze because I had some questions about the dress code language that's in this year's student handbook. It just seemed pretty extensive. It went from basically 1 page or less than a page of information to, or a paragraph of information on the dress code to, gosh, it's like a page and a half. And it's got a lot of different language in there that I just had a lot of questions about. So I'm wondering if we can maybe visit that portion of it and give everybody a chance to kind of look at it. And I just had some questions on it.
Which handbook and which page?
So I have the PHS student handbook open.
High school handbook?
18.
Yeah, and I think it's in the, I was looking at the middle school one, but I think it's in the high school one as well. And I think some of the language is in all of them to some way, shape, or form. It goes into quite heavy detail on the student appearance portion of it. And I mean, some of the specific things that I had questions about, it talks about certain body parts must be covered for all students at all times, and then goes into what those are. But then it mentions, however, cleavage should not be, or not have coverage requirements. And I don't know. Some of that, and along with some of the other language, I think is just, I had some questions on it because I was wondering why the departure from previous years. And Mr. Craze did explain a little bit of that to me, but I'd be interested in delving in a little bit heavier to that to find out if we need all of the information or all of the detail that's included in this draft.
So I think for the board's benefit, the genesis of this, when we were looking at our handbooks, the high school did some extensive, they were aggressive, they were already on this before that board meeting. And they went out to, if you recall in the spring, we were recognized as a top high school U.S. News World Report. I believe we were 19th. And so what the administration did was they looked at the 18 above us, and let's see what they're doing. Maybe we can pick up some things from that. And one of the items that we felt would be of great benefit, well, let's look at our dress code. Is our dress code fair to our students, fair equity across the board as far as what we need to be. And from that, and pulled some items from different places, we talked about it, and this is a change, but from my point of view, just me as a person, as a former high school principal, when I first looked at this, I was resistant because, boy, what are we doing? But then it worked through me, and I realized that as we change, what this language does is it allows every student to be able to come to school. And just a great example are different body types. There are certain body types that no matter what, something's going to happen with clothing. This recognizes that and allows that student to feel comfortable wearing. One of the things that I struggled with, forget about me, but when we have a no hats rule, for example, no headwear, we have a lot of students that have a headdress of sorts or a headband. We have a lot of our staff that wear a headband, and it's very stylish. It's who they are, it's part of their culture. So why are we, I believe this language better represents what we want our students to come into our building and have success. So that's just kind of a general overview for the board.
Has everybody read through the entire, I don't know if everybody's had a chance to look through everything, but I mean, we went through, I mean, from not being able to wear ripped jeans, I think pants or tops that expose the midriff or are immodest, clothing with excessive holes, cuts, tears, otherwise revealing, coats, jackets, sunglasses, shoes must be worn in the building, to now they may wear hats, fitted pants, including skinny jeans, pajamas, ripped jeans, as long as the underwear and buttocks are not exposed, tank tops, including spaghetti straps, halter tops, visible waistbands on undergarments or visible straps on undergarments worn under other clothing. You know, I guess, do we need all that, all that detail of, you know, I don't know, it just seemed a little elaborate, so I don't know.
I would counter that with saying, wouldn't you rather have it spelled out than have it be a judgment call and somebody get pulled in because one teacher feels or one administrator says that's inappropriate and another one saying, no, that's fine because the language is gray?
When I think back of when they used to have all these rules, but then during sports teams practice, you know, guys would have cut shirts on that are, they basically have a hem on them and they're connected up here. And girls were, I mean, my volleyball team at times practiced in their sports bras because it was so hot in the gym. Now the gyms are cooler, but you know, so there was a double standard. Well, guys can walk around and pretty much have just like a piece of paper on them loosely, and we have to have shirts and, you know, so it was actually not fair the way it was done.
Well, and I did note that because I mean, I've had my girls have been here since, you know, the early 2014s or whatever, but, you know, and Jacob did say that they took some of that language out of the existing one where, you know, they're not measuring skirt hems and they're not, you know, that sort of thing, which is, you know, I'm fine with that. But I'm just thinking, you know, we're wanting to prepare our students to be ready for the workforce and to go out into the world to be successful, but yet we're not really expecting them or raising the expectations to, you know, look nice while they're here too. You know, if we're encouraging them to, you know.
And I would argue with that because that's one of my beliefs that I have switched on. Because today's work environment is not the same at all.
So we should have no expectations.
Well, we have expectations. We do, but you can't pigeonhole and say you can only do this. And it's,
I would say,
trust me, I recently,
just
really recently felt the same way that you did.
I think some of it comes down to trust. right? We're not outwardly promoting it, but we're saying we trust you to dress yourself to come to school to learn because that's what you're here to do.
We're also supporting some of the individualism. The other thing is I walk up to the counter now at the bank or the Culver's, wherever, the looks of the people has changed. And I'm not gonna say that I don't think so-and-so does a better or worse job because they have a piercing or a tattoo or whatever. That's just where we're at now as a society. And we need to adapt to that. And some of this stuff in here is really what that's doing, is it's adapting to what society truly is. Whether we're old school or not, and we agree with it or not, or we would do it or we wouldn't do it, it's really become, this is the social norm and what's acceptable now.
Well, and I'm not disagreeing with any of that, but I guess the one thing that I did have a problem majorly was the fact that we're mentioning or encouraging that cleavage shouldn't be covered.
And you know, I had the experience with, I used to, you know, you have to cover up that cleavage, and have the student who say, I'm big-breasted. There is nothing I can do. The sweatshirt shows cleavage. And it was shaming her. I changed my tactics after that. So there are circumstances where, and I think maybe cleavage needs to be, are we doing upper and lower cleavage? Is it just breast cleavage? Is it buttocks cleavage?
Are we gonna take measurements now?
No.
You know, no, but it's
I guess-
saying, you know what I mean?
I was looking at it from a parent of girls, you know, and so, you know, we're trying not to create an environment where, you know, I don't want teenage boys, you know, commenting on my daughter's cleavage. And so when we're putting it in the school handbook as, you know, we're going to specifically say that cleavage should not have coverage requirements.
I also specifically say that you need to be respectful and not sexually harass your.
No, I mean, I just
all that on.
seemed a little inexpensive.
It has both in there. It says that the breast must be covered, but it also says cleavage is not going to be strictly monitored. And I think that they're just giving an opportunity to express themselves, to wear things that hopefully their parents also find appropriate. We're putting something out to the families, putting trust in the families and the students. And we're still saying you need to be covered, but we're not gonna say if we see a little bit of cleavage, you're being sent home. Because there are always gonna be those students that are not gonna be able to find a top that can.
Well, of course. I thought it was a little bit, you know, from, you know, basically a few items of what's prohibited, which are pretty common sense, prohibited, just last year to, you know, now we've got a whole page of very explicit language that, you know, deals with a lot outside of just coming to school and getting an education, wearing, you know, something that's not offensive and disruptive to the education process. So that was just my thought.
I think I'm guessing that, you know, part of the work that we're doing, not only through the Center for All, but really looking at equity and inclusivity across the board, that's going to allow us or actually lend us to actually rethink a lot of our policies and practice and just how we think about things. I can still never forget, 2 years ago, I went and picked my niece up at her Appleton school, and there was a kid that walked out near her and they had like a cat suit on. And I'm like, oh, what day was it? And they're like, no, they dress as a cat every day. I'm like, what? I mean, I just thought that was insane, but that's who that person is. And, you know, if it's not hurting anyone, if their body parts are covered that are supposed to be covered, I don't think it's I mean, that's what's going on with that person and that family and their world. It's not our job we just have to say, I mean, I don't know if that, you can almost buy a pair of jeans that don't have ripped or distressed areas now. I'm like, it is what it is.
Well, and that was addressed in the old one too, so.
Any other questions or discussion on the consent agenda items? Hearing none, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to the agenda itself. We need a motion and a second to approve the agenda.
So moved. Second.
So I have a motion by Colleen and a second by Betsy to approve the agenda as presented. Any questions or discussion on that? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to action items. New hire Westview.
Yes, it is my recommendation to approve the hiring of Alyssa Higgins as a Westview special education teacher.
So moved.
Second.
Going.
Motion by, motion by Colleen, a second by Ben to approve the hire of our new Westview special education teacher, Alyssa Higgins. Any questions or comments on that? Hearing none, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to new hire middle school counselor.
The position we created towards the end of the last school year, it is my recommendation to approve the hiring of Sarah Lipska as our new middle school counselor.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Kurt, second by Lisa to approve the hire of Sarah Lipska as new middle school counselor for 22-23. Any questions or discussion on that? Hearing none, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Another new hire for Westview.
Yes, Westview first grade position, I would recommend the hiring of Kira O'Driscoll for that first grade position.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Lisa, second by Matt to approve the hiring of Kira O'Driscoll at Westview Elementary. Any questions or comments on that one? Hearing none, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. High school part-time education assistant.
So this is a position that has made it through Operations Committee. It's looking for board approval to create this position. The need is, as we expand our offerings, as the schedule is built, there is a part-time need to cover some of these student needs. And it's primarily a learning center environment.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Kurt, second by Betsy to approve the high school part-time education assistant as presented. Any questions or comments on that? Hearing none, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Legal services.
When a school district puts a question to referendum, there is a lot of legal responsibility in making sure that it is done correctly. That's what this service is. We traditionally go with Griggs, the law service of Thomas Griggs. We went out and achieved a quote from another competitor. I recommend staying with Thomas Griggs Law Service for this referendum, resolution, and financing.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Matt, second by Colleen to approve the contract with the Griggs Law Firm for the 2022 referendum resolution and financing. Any questions or comments on that? Hearing none, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Care Solace Agreement.
Care Solace is something that the district discovered, primarily the high school level, discovered that there is a service in which its main value is not delivering counseling services for mental health counseling and needs of that nature. Its beauty is in shortening the wait time, aligning those resources with our students and their family, and this also applies to our staff and their family. So this is something that we learned about from the Lancaster School District. We have done our research, and we are in favor of this. So I would recommend to approve that initial term with the Care Solace.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Jen, second by Ben to approve the Care Solace Agreement as presented. Any questions or comments on that? Just want to say, I think it's a really good idea that we have this, considering the wait times that we had, and kudos to, was it Jake that found it? Thank you. I think this is going to be a really good thing. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Bread and milk bids.
We go through the regular bidding process. Our recommendation is that we accept the Prairie Farms milk bid and the Bimbo Bakeries USA bread bids for the 2023 school year.
Second.
Motion by Kurt, second by Jen, to approve the Prairie Farms milk bid and Bimbo Bakeries bid.
Knew you were going to say it.
As presented for the 2022-23 school year. Any questions or comments on that? Hearing none, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Breakfast and lunch pricing.
Our lunch prices and breakfast prices have remained the same since 2017. So we are recommending, for the most part, an increase of 5 cents with those services. It is justified. What is upsetting from a community, from a school district level, is that when 2 years ago, when COVID was wreaking havoc, our government, our federal government said, listen, forget free, forget reduced, all students that go to school, they're going to have a breakfast, they're going to have a lunch. When that happened, I believe everybody who is familiar with schools just said, yes, this is a fantastic way to go about and do business for our kids. And I said it, it's probably back on some of our video recordings where I don't think they'll ever be able to take this back. This is just so intelligent that our students are guaranteed that meal, breakfast and lunch. They have taken it back, so that's very disappointing. But we do have those prices that do need adjusted.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Colleen, second by Kurt, to approve the breakfast and lunch pricing as presented. Any questions or comments on that?
I had a question. Over the last 2 years, have we, or has the government supplied a report of what that actual cost is for the district to supply all of those meals based on what we've served?
I don't know if there is a report, but it is a number we're going to research. That's a great thing.
It is, yeah.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. One left.
So moved.
Adjourn.
Second.
Kurt, second by Colleen. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned 7:47 PM. Thank you, everybody.